I was working the front desk at a hotel in Copenhagen when this American couple checked in. The husband immediately asked me which floor had the better rooms. I told him all our rooms are the same quality, just different views. He looked confused and said, "No, like, where's your premium floor? The executive level?" I explained we don't really do that here. Every room has the same amenities, same bed quality, same everything. He stared at me like I'd just told him the earth was flat. His wife jumped in. "So you're saying a teacher staying here gets the same room as a CEO?" I nodded. She laughed nervously and said, That's weird, right?" I just smiled and handed them their key cards. They walked away whispering to each other, completely baffled that everyone got treated the same. This is the kind of framing I unpack often, grounded, specific, and built for people who want to understand systems, not just stories. If that's you, you'll want to stay connected. Another guest that week asked where the VIP entrance was. "Ma'am, this is Denmark. We have one entrance. Everyone uses the same door." My friend who works at a restaurant in Stockholm told me about an American businessman who got visibly upset when he realized the restaurant didn't have a separate seating area for high-value customers. He actually said those words. The manager explained that in Sweden, everyone sits wherever there's space available. The guy ended up leaving, saying he'd find somewhere that understood service hierarchy. I used to think these were one-off situations. Then I started collecting these stories. Turns out there's a pattern. Americans abroad often struggle with something that seems simple to the rest of us. Spaces and systems where everyone is genuinely treated as equals. Not because Americans are bad people, but because the concept of built-in hierarchy is so deep in American culture that removing it feels wrong to them, uncomfortable, even unfair. This isn't about making fun of anyone. It's about understanding a real cultural gap. Because when you grow up in a society where everything has levels, tiers, and premium options, a place where the billionaire and the barista use the same entrance feels like something's broken. So let me walk you through what happens when Americans encounter actual equality abroad. These are real stories from service workers, locals, and travelers across Europe, Asia, and beyond. And trust me, once you see the pattern, you can't unsee it. I talked to a woman who works at a public library in Oslo. She told me an American tourist came in and asked where the membership tiers were posted. She didn't understand the question at first. He clarified. Like, what do I pay for premium access? Longer checkout times, reserved study rooms, that kind of thing? She explained that everyone has the same access. All services are free, no tiers. He genuinely didn't believe her. He thought she was confused or new to the job. He kept pushing. But what if I want to donate money for better service? She said he could donate to support the library, but it wouldn't change his access because everyone already has full access. He left looking frustrated, like he'd just been told he couldn't pay extra to skip a line that didn't exist. My cousin works at a train station in Amsterdam. She said Americans constantly ask about first-class upgrades on regional trains that don't have classes. The trains just have seats. You sit wherever there's space. She's had people argue with her, insisting there must be some way to pay more for a better experience. When she explains that the experience is the same for everyone, they assume the service must be terrible. Because in their minds, if there's no premium option, that means everyone's getting the cheap version. I track signals like this constantly, how culture encodes values into everyday experiences. If you think context matters more than outrage, consider subscribing. One guy told her, "So you're saying a minimum wage worker gets the same seat as me?" She said yes. He shook his head and said, "That's exactly what's wrong with Europe." A friend in Berlin works at a public pool. An American family showed up and asked about the family executive package, or VIP pool access. There is no VIP section. Everyone swims in the same pools, uses the same facilities. The father couldn't wrap his head around it. He asked, What if my kids don't want to swim near, everyone? The staff member just stared at him. Everyone meaning other humans? The father got defensive and said, that's not what he meant, but he never really explained what he did mean. I worked at a museum in Paris for a summer. We had 2 American tourists argue with my manager because they wanted to pay extra to skip the security line. Not the ticket line, the security line. My manager explained that security screening is the same for everyone, no exceptions. They said they'd paid for expedited experiences at American museums and didn't understand why we couldn't do the same. My manager said, because a security risk doesn't care how much money you have. They filed a complaint anyway. Here's what's interesting. These aren't wealthy elites being snobby. These are regular middle-class Americans who've been conditioned to expect tiered access everywhere. Coffee shops have reward tiers. Airlines have status levels. Even grocery stores have membership programs. Everything in American life is structured around the idea that paying more or having status gets you different treatment. So when they travel abroad and find systems designed around equality, it breaks their brain. They're not trying to be difficult. They're literally navigating a world that operates on completely different principles. A barista in Vienna told me an American asked why they don't have a separate line for regulars or people in a hurry. She said everyone waits the same amount. He said, even if I tip really well? She explained that tips don't buy priority in Austria. He left saying European service was backwards. But here's the thing. It's not backwards. It's just equal. And equality feels like oppression when you're used to advantage. A bus driver in Dublin said an American couple got angry because they couldn't pay extra to guarantee seats together. The bus has open seating. Everyone sits where they want. First come, first served. The couple genuinely believed this was unfair to them specifically. They kept saying, but we're together. We're a couple. The driver said, so are 4 other couples on this bus, and they figured it out. The couple ended up calling the bus system discriminatory because it didn't offer paid priority seating. They missed the irony completely. This is where it gets really interesting. A nurse in Toronto told me about an American patient who came in for a minor injury. After getting treated, he asked where he pays and what the express checkout was. She explained that healthcare is covered, and everyone leaves through the same exit. He didn't believe her. He thought she was pranking him. When he realized she was serious, he asked, so like, even homeless people get treated the same as me? She said yes. He said, but I have insurance, good insurance. She explained it didn't matter here. He left visibly uncomfortable, like he'd been cheated out of something. Another nurse told me an American woman was upset that she couldn't pay extra for a nicer recovery room. All the rooms were the same. Same quality, same equipment, same care. The woman said, this is what happens with socialized medicine. Everyone gets the same mediocre treatment. The nurse said, no, everyone gets the same excellent treatment. The woman couldn't process the difference. My friend works at a pharmacy in Melbourne. An American asked if they had a premium line for expensive prescriptions. They don't. Everyone waits in the same line regardless of what they're picking up. The American said this was inefficient and suggested they implement a tiered system. My friend said, you mean make sick people wait longer because they're poor? The American got defensive and said that's not what he meant, but again, never clarified what he did mean. A doctor in Sweden told me an American patient asked if paying cash would get him seen faster in the emergency room. The doctor explained that the ER uses a triage system based on medical urgency, not payment ability. The American said, but what if I'm willing to pay a lot? The doctor said, then you'd still wait your turn like everyone else. Because your sprained ankle isn't more important than someone's chest pain, regardless of your bank account. The patient actually complained that the system was unfair to successful people. Here's what we're seeing. Americans are so used to money buying priority in essential services that they can't imagine a system that explicitly rejects that model. To them, equal access feels like they're being downgraded. They're not getting special treatment, so they assume they're getting bad treatment. A social worker in Germany told me about an American expat who was genuinely distressed that her kids attended the same quality public school as everyone else's kids in the neighborhood. She kept asking about gifted programs or accelerated tracks, but not based on testing or ability, based on essentially opting into a different tier. When told the school focuses on keeping kids together and lifting everyone up, she said, "But what about my kid's potential?" The social worker asked, "What about every child's potential?" The mother didn't have an answer. A receptionist at a government office in Copenhagen said Americans always ask how to expedite their paperwork processing. They want to know the fee for faster service. There is no fee. Everyone's paperwork processes in the same time frame, in the order it's received. She's had people offer her money under the table, genuinely believing that's how it works everywhere. When she declines and explains the system is designed to be fair to everyone, they often get frustrated. One person said, "In America, time is money. If I'm willing to pay, I should get faster service." She replied, "In Denmark, fairness is free. Everyone gets the same timeline. A hospital administrator in New Zealand told me an American man demanded to speak to her because he wanted to pay for his elderly mother to get surgery sooner than the waiting list. She explained the list is based on medical priority, not ability to pay. He said, "You're telling me a stranger's life is worth the same as my mother's?" She said, "I'm telling you, the surgeon treats the most urgent cases first, and that protects your mother too if she's ever the urgent one." He called the system immoral. She called it equal. Neither convinced the other. I was at a cafe in Brussels when I overheard an American couple discussing how weird it was that their Airbnb host, who was a lawyer, picked them up in a regular small car and lived in an apartment building with a mix of professions. They kept saying things like, "In the States, lawyers live in lawyer neighborhoods." The idea that a lawyer, a teacher, and a retail worker might live in the same building and be neighbors seemed to violate some natural order to them. A property manager in Amsterdam told me American renters often ask about buildings that are professionals only or executive. Housing. She explains that Dutch housing is mixed income by design in most areas. They usually respond with concern about safety or the right environment, which is code for not wanting to live near people they see as beneath them economically. One American actually asked her, "How do you maintain property values if anyone can live there?" She said, "By maintaining the property, not by excluding people." He didn't rent from her. My colleague worked at a gym in Copenhagen. An American member complained that the locker room didn't have a premium section for higher-tier memberships. Everyone uses the same facilities. He said this created an uncomfortable mixing of different calibers of people. The staff asked what he meant. He couldn't articulate it without sounding bad, so he just kept saying it felt wrong. A teacher in Finland told me an American parent was upset during a school meeting because the principal bikes to work and doesn't have a reserved parking spot or separate office entrance. The parent felt this diminished the principal's authority. In Finland, it just means the principal is like everyone else. The parent said, "How can my child respect someone who bikes to work like a regular person?" The teacher said, "By seeing them as a regular person who happens to lead the school." A waiter in Sweden told me an American diner was confused about why the restaurant owner was bussing tables during a rush. Shouldn't he have staff for that? The waiter explained that in Sweden, there's no shame in any honest work. The owner helps wherever needed. The American said, "But that makes him look like he can't afford staff." The waiter said, "It makes him look like he's part of a team." Here's the core issue. Americans are raised in a culture of visible hierarchy. Your worth is demonstrated by how separated you are from regular people. You don't use the same entrance. You don't wait in the same lines. You don't live in the same neighborhoods. Your status is proven by your access to exclusivity. So in cultures where that segregation doesn't exist by design, Americans feel like the system is broken. They're not trying to be elitist. They're trying to navigate a world that doesn't have the visual markers they use to understand social order. A bartender in Ireland told me an American customer asked why the bar didn't have a VIP section. She said the whole bar is for everyone. He said, "But what if someone important comes in?" She said, "Everyone's equally important here." He laughed like she was joking. She wasn't. A tour guide in Iceland said an American couple asked if they could pay extra for a private version of a group tour they'd already booked. When told no, that this was a shared cultural experience by design, they said they didn't want to deal with random people on their vacation. The guide said, "Those random people paid the same as you and have the same right to be here." The couple left a one-star review saying the tour was too democratic. Too democratic. Let that sink in. A shop owner in Portugal told me an American asked if paying more would get him served before the customers already waiting. The owner said no, everyone waits their turn. The American said, "Even if I'm spending more?" The owner said, "Even if you're spending a fortune. The person who got here first gets served first. That's respect." The American muttered something about European inefficiency and left. A bank teller in Norway said Americans often get frustrated that there's no premier customer line at banks. Everyone uses the same queue system. One American told her, "In the US, my bank status means I don't wait." She said, "In Norway, your human status means you wait the same as everyone else." He closed his account and found an international bank with tiered service. I was back at that hotel in Copenhagen a few months later. Different American couple, same question. "Where's your club level?" I gave the same answer. No club level. All rooms are equal. But this time, something different happened. The wife paused and said, "You know what? That's actually kind of nice. We don't have to stress about whether we booked the right tier." Her husband still looked skeptical, but she smiled. Everyone just gets a good room. Simple. That stuck with me. Because buried under all these stories is something interesting. Most Americans aren't demanding hierarchy because they're cruel. They're demanding it because it's all they know. The American system trains you to believe that comfort requires someone else having less, that your good experience requires someone else's bad one. So when they encounter systems built on the radical idea that everyone can have good experiences simultaneously, it's disorienting. The system isn't designed to make you feel special by making others feel less than. It's designed to make everyone feel human. A taxi driver in Berlin told me about an American passenger who asked why there wasn't a luxury taxi tier for executives. The driver said, "Because every passenger deserves a clean, safe ride regardless of their job title." The American went quiet for a moment, then said, "I never thought about it like that." That's the thing. Most Americans haven't thought about it like that. They've been swimming in hierarchy so long they don't realize water exists. This isn't just commentary. It's cultural literacy. And if that lens helps you see the world differently, this channel is built for you. I'm not saying European or other systems are perfect. They're not. Every system has flaws. But there's something worth examining in the American discomfort with equality. The automatic assumption that equal treatment means bad treatment. The belief that someone else's dignity diminishes yours. My hotel manager in Copenhagen once told me, "Americans ask for the club level because they think that's how you get respect." We try to show them that respect is the default here, not the upgrade. And trust me, these stories never stop coming. Every week there's another American abroad, confused about why they can't pay to skip the line, upgrade the experience, or separate themselves from everyone else. Not because they're bad people, but because equality feels foreign when hierarchy feels like home. Maybe that's the real culture shock.